Okay, so, you know what? I say okay, so at the beginning of every freaking podcast episode that I ever do. I'm one of these days, I'm just going to do a compilation of all the okay so's. Okay so's. That sounds like queso. Now I want queso. Whew. Y'all, you see how crazy and scatterbrained I am? It's a wonder, you wonder why I needed to do psychedelics and heal myself and find God and all this stuff. And it's because my brain never stops. And a brain that never stops will get itself into trouble. And that's one of the reasons why I'm talking to you all today. First and foremost, the main reason why I'm talking to you all is, it's not the main reason. The main reason is what I'm going to talk to you about in a little bit. But the first reason I'll mention, how about that, is we have passed 700 subscribers. And, usually when I do a 700 or like a milestone, I used to do them every 100 subscribers. Now I do them every 200 subscribers. But I usually do like a cool little video or something where I showcase my favorite cocktail or something, that kind of thing. And I ran out of cocktails, so I was going to start doing food. I dabble a little bit in the kitchen as well. And the thing is, y'all, it's like I'm not going to continue doing that. And it's because I'm going through. I'm just going to go. Let me backpedal for a second and just admit to you something, okay? So the reason why I'm talking to you on my phone, right? I do a voice memo. I do voice memos a lot. Anytime I have like a deep thought and I want to capture it like quickly so I don't forget it, I pull out my phone and I do a little voice memo. And then what usually happens is I get so involved in that voicemail and it gets to be so, for lack of a better word, good, that I'll turn that into an episode. And I feel bad because this is supposed to be a very polished podcast, and I take pride in that polish. But then I go from like my Neumann microphone and all this, Adobe Audition and all this fancy recording equipment, and then all my filmmaking equipment. I go from like that to a voice memo on a phone where you hear like garbage trucks passing by, or I'm driving in my car and you hear me like putting on my blinker. And so I apologize, but there's a reason I'm doing this right now, y'all, and it's because I'm most comfortable in this setting. Like, even though it's just the tiniest amount of pressure, because I'm not performing in front of an audience, when I record these episodes, there's still a tiny amount of pressure when you see one of those professional microphones in your face. And I've been doing multimedia stuff for, semi-professionally for like 20 plus years. And so like you would think I'd get used to it by now, but you never really do, unless you're a badass actor, right? Or if you're a badass, if you can meditate properly and then like psych yourself into like a calm mental state. But the reason why I'm ultimately talking to you this way right now is because I want to be 100% comfortable, because I'm likely going to get into some very emotional stuff here. And again, I said garbage trucks. You're about to hear another garbage truck right there. I wanted to talk to everyone today about, just give you an update about my progression through my journey through the Pantheos, okay? My recovery, my path of healing, my path of faith, finding God and finding Jesus now and all this other stuff. And I wanted to kind of give everyone an update because, how do I put this delicately? So, my story is not unique, okay? I know a lot of people, actually. I know this probably happens, y'all, with most people who find faith, unless you're born into faith, right? If you are one of these, God bless you if you're like this. It's like you're born into a family that believes in God, and you just believe in God too, and everything works, and it's just great. God bless you. Others of us, we have to find our faith, right? Even when you're a child and you are just going through the motions, because I think that's what children do, you can have a situation where your family believes in God and you pretend you do too, because that's what you're doing. You're mimicking. Children don't really think. They just kind of mimic until they can figure things out on their own. And that's what happens with a lot of preachers' children and stuff like that, is once they start figuring out things on their own, they start to rebel, and next thing you know, et cetera, the rest is history, right? So we all know that pattern very well. We all know someone who knows someone, or maybe it's you yourself. And if it is you yourself, well, then God bless you even more, because this is what I'm talking about here, y'all. I've met a lot of people. My brother is one of these people. And I always talk about how life is a joke. My brother went through this, spiritual awakening back in like 2004 or something like that, like almost 20 years ago. And I was full. That was like in the peak of my atheism. And I treated it all like a joke. I was like, this is an unsustainable mess. Like, we can't be super religious all of a sudden when we weren't, and especially me. And I'm like, this is unsustainable. It's all going to crash and burn. And I'm not taking part in this at all. And I kept at arm's length, et cetera, et cetera. And then lo and behold, because life is a joke, y'all, here I am 20 years later, following the exact same arc that my brother did. The exact same arc. I mean, I am now feeling and living exactly what he went through. And I'm going to him for advice a lot now, because it's like there's still a lot of rug pulled out from under you moments when you're finding faith for the first time. And my brother is the one that I know had this very similar kind of thing. And so like I just had a conversation with him 10 minutes ago. And my point here, y'all, is that my story is actually not unique, right? If you take psychedelics and all the crazy stuff out of this equation, you have a guy who was lost and found God, okay? And God helped him. The psychedelics, y'all, and especially my story therein, right? And my sharing said story with the world, that seems to have complicated the matter, okay? And turned it into something that is way more, or turned it into something I thought was way more than it actually is. But it is actually just that, y'all. It's a man who was lost, who found faith. Nothing more. And all of the psychedelics and all this stuff was just this grandiose kind of unbelievably crazy fireworks. And, I literally saw God laughing, y'all, and it reminded me of fireworks. It's like there's so many. I saw the multiverse and all this stuff, y'all, and all these synchronicities with there being a 666 on a highway, and then a crucifix right after I say the word Jesus, and all this other stuff. This is all just fluffery for a man who was lost that found God. Nothing more. And I had echoes of this kind of thought of like, there's nothing special about this, y'all. I started having thoughts about that about a year ago, like when I was starting to get into the deeper episodes, right, where it's like I had to put a lot of time and effort into making this episode be very polished. And I'm sitting there realizing that I'm sitting over here just patting myself on the freaking back. And yes, the story is amazing. And yes, it was absolutely earth-shaking and words can't describe. I mean, y'all have heard the episodes. But why am I telling anybody any of this? Why do I find it necessary to share this with other people. And every time I would question that, I would tell myself, well, it's because there are certain things about this story that are insanely epic that must be told, right? I mean, this whole concept of like evil being an infection and stuff like that, and it behaves like a parasite, and it wants you to do its bidding, and how we can be infected and do stuff against our will to basically go in line with it. It's like, surely that's been hypothesized or whatever, or even seen or experienced, even probably in psychedelics or whatever before. Surely I am not the only one to have ever encountered or thought that. But I thought to myself, man, this is a really good opportunity to get people like me to, like how I was, atheist, nihilistic, thinks God and Jesus and stuff like that are a big joke. Thinks evil is a big joke. I thought evil was just a warped sense of survival, and so I was like, I got to do this to get those people. Like, I want to find the me out there that was in the same boat, who's teetering on the knife's edge there, and then tell them a story that is so unbelievable that they have to sit there and scratch their head. And if I can get them to just scratch their head, then that's all I need. That's all I need, is because that's all I needed myself, y'all, was a head scratch moment. That light that appeared to me on my porch, and it wasn't like a angelic like hallucination light. It was a literal flood lamp on my porch in the house that I grew up in. It was one tiny light shining down on a couch, like a lawn furniture, like wicker couch, that was on the exact spot of where I had the most cherished and most beautiful memory of my entire life. And it's just a single light shining down on this couch. And this whole time I was trying to find a way to grieve for this house and this property that my mom was, and we all gave her a blessing on this to sell the property. But my mom sold our home, our family home, my boyhood where I grew up, my family home. And I wasn't feeling bad about it. And it's, you ever have a situation where someone you love dies and your emotions haven't caught up with you yet, and you're upset at yourself because you haven't cried yet? That's what I was going through that day as I was looking around at this property, y'all, was another family member. I have a dream about this property once a week. That's how much I love this property. That was happening to me. I was going through, I was walking around, and I couldn't grieve for anything, and I was feeling upset that I couldn't grieve. And y'all heard the episode, but I'm going to rehash it anyway because it's so amazing. And I need to remember this and cherish it always. I go and I'm turning off lights on the property. It's like 3 a.m., something like that. Super early in the morning, super late, whatever you want to call it, late or early. Turning off lights. I thought I had turned all the lights off. I went to turn off the last one, and I come out the laundry room, and I turn left, and I see one floodlight in a cluster of floodlights. All of them are out except for one. Otherwise, it would have illuminated a bigger part of the porch. But there was just one floodlight, and it looked like a freaking spotlight. And it was shining down on a wicker bench, a couch, which is where my favorite memory that I've ever had in my entire life happened. My sweet, I changed his name for the sake of this podcast because I don't want my family to get mad at me for associating psychedelics with their dear sweet uncle. This man, y'all, was the sweetest person you can possibly imagine. I would have, he would make a pot of coffee. He loved coffee. And he would visit us. He lived out in the He lived out in Nevada, and he would come and visit us probably like a couple times a year, something like that. And I just cherished it. I once pretended like I was sick in school so that I could go hang out with, again, I changed his name for the sake of this podcast. I'm calling him Uncle Bob. I once faked like I was sick, and I really had to sell it. The nurse she couldn't figure out what was going on. She called my mom. She's like, I can't figure out what's wrong with Andrew. And she knew, my mom knew, I wanted to be with my Uncle Bob. Anyway, this man, he loved thunderstorms, and he loved coffee. And he loved our property also. He loved watching thunderstorms on our property, drinking coffee. And he would make a pot of coffee, and he'd sit out there on this particular spot on the porch, right in the breezeway, where he can see both sides of the property, and watch the thunderstorm. And anytime he would do that, I would go and join him, and it's my favorite memories ever. And there was that light was shining down on that bench, right on my favorite spot. A favorite memory of my entire life. And I had a head scratch moment. I'm taking this back now to earlier when I said I want to find the people out there who were like me and get them to have a head scratch moment of, I wonder if there's something else to this than just pure happenstance, because I was a happenstance guy, y'all. I was probability and happenstance. It's just a light, okay? There's a finite amount of lights on this property, and one of them is going to be shining down on a particular spot in the finite amount of spots on this property. And what's the big deal? What's so magic about that? There's a cluster of floodlights pointing in that direction anyway. What's the big deal here? So what that all but one of them was out? It's maintenance on the property, which my mom had to. That's one of the main reasons why she got rid of the place in the first place, is that she was the sole person on a 5-acre property having to maintain it all. Of course, there's going to be lights that are burnt out. What's the big deal? Y'all, to me, it was everything. That light, there was no light, y'all. I had to walk past the pool house. I had to walk out of the pool house, past the main house to the laundry room. Like the laundry room is part of our old garage that my dad and my Uncle Bob built with their bare hands, by the way. I'd like to point that out. And my grandpa, too, my grandfather. I'd like to point that out as well. My uncle, almost said his name. My uncle, James, I'll make up a name there. He no doubt had a hand in it as well. But I walked past that area of the porch and I didn't see a light, y'all. That's all. It was late. Maybe I saw it and didn't even notice it. I don't know, but I swear there wasn't a light on. And then I come out the laundry room. When I turn the light in the laundry room off, I turn left and I see that on. And the feeling that I got, that I felt, was as if the house and the property was welcoming me to come and sit down. I mean, the bench was facing me, squared up with me. There's no reason that bench should have been facing that direction. What are you going to look at, the friggin' fence? No, you angle that bench just the way that, where you would see the rest of the property. But it was, for whatever reason, it was angled right at me. And it was light was shining down perfectly on it. And it was as if the property was saying, come sit down and relive your favorite memory. You were wanting to grieve the property. This is it. All of the other accumulated things that ever happened on this property doesn't mean anything compared to this one spot. and you know it. That's how important that spot of that property was for me, y'all. If that light would have been anywhere else, it would not. And again, statistician, dude, it's a cluster of floodlights in a spot where there's going to be lights anyway. But it meant everything to me, y'all, and I was taken aback. And I was like, okay, the property is speaking to me, is what I thought. I was like, wow, how does it know that was special to me, this little area? And, because I'll be fully honest with you guys. Y'all know if you listen to the episode, I took mushrooms that night. I did it with the intent of finding healing for losing the property. And so I, at this point, am still atheist, right? The only extent that I think something is magical is that I thought the mushrooms were talking to me and they were embodying themselves as the property, right? So for me, putting it all together, I was still like in the statistician mindset, right? It's like, here's a light that's on. That's it. It's just a light that's on a porch. The magical mushroom experience that I'm having is making it seem more magical than it is. Like I'm starting to feel like the property is talking to me and saying, come here and relive this beautiful memory. And so that's the extent that I thought that this was magic at the time. Is I took mushrooms and the property is compelling me to come relive this memory as my last memory at that house. And I'll never forget just being blown away. I took a picture of it. I took a video of it. I'll post the picture on this video so you can see it yourself. It's very grainy, out of focus, and hard to make out. But you'll see a little bench and a light. So anyways, I approach the bench. I sit down, and I had this thought. And it's a thought that it's had my head spinning for 2 years now, and will have my head spinning for the rest of my life. But not only my head spinning, my entire life spinning, y'all. And it was, is this just happenstance? Or could this be the work of something else? And that's all I said was something else. In my head, I thought this. And that is when I had just that question, y'all, opened up the most amazing flood of love, warmth, happiness, joy. All the words I've ever used in all of my episodes about how amazing all this stuff is, y'all, it all hit me all at once and had me in a puddle of tears. I couldn't look up at the source. I don't want to go through all of the stuff that happened on that episode again, but I couldn't even look it in the face. But the crazy thing is, and I covered this in Trip 10, it was a void. It was blackness, but it was blinding blackness. But it was blinding love, and it was threatening to explode every cell in your body with this love. I'm still convinced that it's infinite love, and the human body cannot take that in. It would kill our feeble little bodies, infinite love. The only way we can absorb that is through spirit, and I think that's what happens when we die. And y'all, I got to tell you that if that is true, which I firmly believe, like I'm willing to be burned at the stake for my belief in this, y'all. If that is what happens and you are absorbed and your spirit absorbs and melds into this infinite love, trust me when I say that you want every part of that, every part of it. And I don't know why I've gone on this long tangent, y'all. Actually, I do know why. I had to rehash my God story again because I needed to hear it, because I'm going through a spiritual crisis right now, y'all, that's really tough. Make no mistakes about it, y'all. it may sound like I am fully, firmly rooted to the core of the earth in my faith because of the things that I've seen, and I've gone to hell, and I've been blasted with God's infinite power, and I saw Jesus, and I went to hell and got rescued from hell because of understanding the sacrifice that Jesus did for us or made for us. You would think after experiencing all this stuff, y'all, that I am firmly rooted to the core of the earth in my faith, but I'm telling you right now that I am not. And I'm beating myself up about it big time. And I have a friend, he's a dear friend, and he was quoting someone who quoted someone else. I think it was Carl Jung or something like that. But he's like, beware of unearned wisdom. That's one of the things that's thrown around kind of wantonly when someone's going on a spiritual awakening, especially if it's psychedelic induced. It's like Jordan Peterson says it all the time, like, beware unearned wisdom. And I was like, that's bullshit, man. Wisdom is wisdom is wisdom. And you want to talk about unearned? I went to hell several times, multiple times, y'all. I got blasted with the infinite power of God. It's like I felt like I earned it, y'all. But that's the thing. I felt. It's past tense word there. In the past month or so, probably more like a month and a half, something like that, my faith has been rattled. And I'm not gonna say that it's anywhere close to how much it could have been rattled, y'all. I mean, I hear stories about people. Man, I heard a story today. I literally had lunch with a person today for a video project that I'm working on for troubled troubled youth. And this woman's story about her son and what she went through to help her son. You talk about testing your faith, y'all. But the thing is like, hopefully there are people out here that can understand when I say this, is that people that are just starting a spiritual awakening, especially coming from 25 years of darkness and y'all just, and then family history, like I said in a few episodes that there was something absolutely unbelievably, unspeakably, I think I just said that word twice, vile that happened to people in my family 2 generations back that basically affected all the lineage of us going forward. And hopefully it whittles out over time and it tempers out over time. But what I'm saying here, ultimately what I'm saying here, y'all, is someone who is pulling themselves out of that, someone going through this, y'all, is extremely fragile. Okay? I don't care what anyone says about how strong and confident and how my ego is less than yours, and you need to have ego death. And it's like, y'all, come on. Can we stop pretending that we're all that we're enlightened? Okay? Can we stop pretending that you're more enlightened than me, or I'm more enlightened than you, or Ram Dass is more enlightened than all of us, or Terence McKenna is more enlightened than he is, and then it's like let's just stop, y'all, and let's all just put down our daggers, okay, and just relax and realize that we are all, I was about to drop an F-bomb here. We're all screwed, okay? We're all screwed, and we're all screwed up on top of that. Anyone coming to you and touting enlightenment, y'all, and I'm included on this. I did it for God knows how many episodes now. Hopefully I have conveyed some bit of like, hey, I'm just relaying the messages I'm getting. I'm not trying to create my own like faith or religion here, and I would never want to do that in the first place. But I keep getting off these little tangents, and y'all, I'm struggling right now, and I'm only telling you this because I want to be transparent on my journey. I want people to know what they're signing up for. Okay? I'm struggling. And I'm starting to call into question this whole thing to begin with. Sorry about that. I had to relocate downstairs, so there's a little break in the recording. But what I was trying to get at, and I know I took so long to get there, is that my faith was balancing on a knife's edge, and it's because I essentially replaced 25 years of darkness and nihilism and all this stuff and addiction, basically, with another addiction. And this addiction just so happens to be a really good addiction, y'all, but addictions can go out of control. And if someone comes along and screws with someone that has just replaced that, then it's devastating for that person. And that's essentially what happened to me in the past 2.5 months. I had a video, one of my short videos that I'm trying to use to drum up more listeners, which is, of course, a 1 minute segment for like clip, an excerpt from a 2 hour long episode. So it's way out of context, but regardless, I have these short videos now. I think I probably have like 4 or 5 of them now. And one of them has gone semi-viral, and we're still talking like meager numbers, right? Like 20,000 views, but it's enough views to get a smattering of people commenting, right? So far on most of my videos and stuff, I've had nothing but support for the most part. There have been a couple people here and there, but whenever you get there have been a couple people that have been detractors and whatever, but for the most part, it's been support. But when you start to get into something that's in the tens of thousands of views and such, right? More people that aren't clued in, like probably the majority of people who have watched my videos, my non-short, my regular videos or whatever, they're already subscribed. They know what they're signing up for. They wouldn't have subscribed if they didn't think it was interesting, and they're going to be thus supporting it. But when you get into something in the tens and tens of thousands of views, now we get people who haven't heard of my channel. They're just stumbling across a shorts clip. And so they either, they probably don't know anything about psychedelics. They may not be spiritual or religious at all, or they may be. But either way, it's really the people that comment on this video, and it's the minority, but it's the vocal minority. And if you were to look at a bell curve of people who comment on viral videos, especially videos that are controversial, and seeing God on psychedelics is probably one of the most controversial topics you can throw out there. Anyone that's going to be commenting on that video, the majority of them in the bell curve are going to fall into the criticism category, the detractor category, and so I've gotten like 2 flavors of criticism. It's like it's typical, right? But the lesser amount of criticism has been basically like atheists and agnostics and nihilists and all this other stuff that are basically like, hey, look, you didn't, and even people who might be spiritual, but scientifically minded people and are kind of like, you're not talking to God, you're talking to yourself. One guy even threw in a little Easter egg of like, because the video was about me laughing with God and me seeing him laugh with me. And he's like, dude, you're not seeing God laugh. You're seeing micro movements reflected in the visuals in your psychedelic experience. So basically, I move and the being I see in front of me moves in unison with that. And that's ridiculous because most of the time I was sitting still and this thing was moving. And then not only that, like when I do move, you would think I would clue in on like, hey, this thing is mimicking every single motion that I do. that would have been absolutely obvious. That would have been probably the number one thing I would have pulled away and I would have reported that. But anyway, blah, blah, blah. I'm getting wrapped up into the comments that I made between me and this guy. But it's really, and by the way, I'm going to table that guy because he did actually bring up a pretty good point that threw me for a loop. But it was really another group of detractors. It was the Christians who got under my skin the most. And again, the psychology of someone who's going to comment on a video anyway is something that a person should not engage in. Granted, people who support me, they leave like wholesome, heartfelt and awesome comments and everything, but that's all that is the mutual admiration society where we're all just patting each other on the backs and et cetera, et cetera. But the Christians, y'all, they're out for blood big time. And they are really upset that I found God via psychedelics, even though I never intended to find God via psychedelics. That was just a side effect. And it was the side effect, y'all, was the most amazing thing. That was the thing for me. It wasn't psychedelics that cured me. Actually, I would kind of say I'm not cured. I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But it wasn't psychedelics that cured me. It was God. But anyways, the Christians are very upset, and it's because there are two places in the Bible where it says you cannot take psychedelics. Basically, I think the word is pharmakia, but you shouldn't take psychedelics to find God. It is witchcraft. It is sorcery, et cetera, et cetera. And these people are very upset and out for blood, like I said, and there's one guy in particular that is just, it's eating him up inside. He's going on to like all of my videos and making these comments of like, you didn't say Jesus at this part, and therefore, you're wrong. And I'm like, anyways, so, but it messed me up in the sense that they were using the very tool that I was finding truth in to attack me. And I'm talking about the Bible. So my progression went from atheism to believing in God to then believing in Jesus, and then starting to pick up the Bible because of those two things. And the Bible has been very recent, very, very recent. And so I started finding truth in the Bible, and it was enriching my life, and I was reading it every day, and I was praying like 3 times a day and all this other stuff. And so I was doing good. And then I released this video that goes viral, and these Christians are attacking me with the very instrument that I was using to find truth. And it's like, it was a new little thing for my spiritual growth was the Bible. And that forced me to face myself. And that combined with the comment of this other guy, I don't know if he's atheist or agnostic or what, but the guy that was saying you didn't see God, you just saw these micro movements, like him and I had this long back and forth. And again, I know I shouldn't engage such people and let it get under my skin, but sorry, I can't help it. My ego is not dead, y'all. We all have egos. I don't care who says they have a small ego. Oh, I have the smallest ego in the universe. I had ego death. Look at me with my small ego over here. My ego's smaller than yours. It's like, get over yourselves, y'all. We all need an ego. We all need one to live. Anyways, blah. But regardless, my ego was getting out of control, engaging in this back and forth exchange with this guy. And at one point he called me out and saying like, dude, you think you're so wise and you have it all figured out here, but all you've done is basically cherry pick things from science and philosophy that follows your narrative, and you keep bolstering your narrative with these things that you've cherry picked. And of course, I turned right back around and said, well, you are too. And that is actually correct. And so I'm saying, I was like, we both have our little narrative that we're cherry picking and building up here. But regardless, if I got him back, regardless, he did make a very good point. I am cherry picking, and I'm cherry picking everything, and especially in the Bible. Like, I'm reading the Bible and I'm highlighting stuff in the Bible on my Bible app. You can highlight stuff, and I'm highlighting and making comments on anything that I find that agrees with my experiences, like be they psychedelic experiences or integrations thereafter, or synchronicities, or even deep thoughts that I've had, that kind of thing. It's like when I see something, I'm like, oh yeah, that's it. That's me. I've experienced that. I need to look further into that. And then there's other stuff I read that I'm like, nope, don't agree with that. Especially when it starts talking about like, hey, there are people in this world that they may be different than you. There are people in this world who are just like you in everything except for this one little thing. And this one little thing means that they are going to burn in a lake of fire for eternity. And I that turns me off, y'all. That turns me off. God to me is infinite love. And so when I come across these things in the Bible like that, I'm like, nope, sorry. So yes, I am cherry picking. And this guy's comment, it made me take pause and realize that if I'm cherry picking, then that means that there's, I don't know, I can't put my full endorsement behind the Bible. And that really threw me for a loop, because I thought to myself, like, if there is a place that I can find truth outside of these like psychedelic experiences, because to me that's like a huge download of like getting punched in the nose with truth and like brutal honesty and brutal beauty and all this, all of the above, right? It's like you get your download like once every 8 months or so, and you're just like, yep, I'm set. Like I know what to focus on right now. It's the in-between times when you get kind of screwed with by people. And that's the problem. That's what I'm getting at here, is that people have kind of come in and altered the course of my journey. Like out of nowhere, I had someone giving me advice about like, hey, I had recently found Jesus and stuff, right? So by the way, in a psychedelic experience. And next thing you know, I'm holding a crucifix in front of the being that I've seen on these experiences and saying, Yeshua HaMashiach and stuff like that. And I don't mean to sound dismissive or like I'm making fun there, because I still don't know what to believe there. But regardless, I wasn't doing that before, and things were great. And then I started doing that, and next thing you know, my last experience, I'm like the trip number 11, the intervention, y'all, is I'm probably going to take that down, because I don't know what to believe in that one. I mean, it was a microdose situation, and I don't know. There was amazing stuff in there that happened that I can't really deny, but there's other stuff in there. A lot of the stuff in there, y'all, is stuff that I've been influenced by other people, and I think that I'm starting to create that reality now because of that. And I don't know if I like the reality that I'm creating, especially if it's one of condemnation and judgment. And these people are worthy of God's grace and love and forgiveness, and these other people over here are not. And if you are, it's like I'm going to stop short of saying I know what it's like for like homosexuals and folks like that who are big Christians and stuff are saying you're going to go to hell, you're going to burn for all eternity, repent and da 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 da. I'm not going to even come close to saying I understand how they feel, but I'm getting a little glimpse of it, and I'm telling you because it's like, hey, you did pharmakia, you're going to hell. That's sorcery. That's Satan. Blah 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 blah. I'm getting a taste of it, y'all, and it ain't cool. It is not cool at all, especially if you're on a spiritual awakening that involves God and Jesus in the first place. Now you're screwing with my head, saying that this is all a trick from a demon to screw with me. And so I have to call into question now kind of almost everything post that, or at least the times that I've saw a being and used the words Jesus Christ as a test, right? I have to call that into question now. It's like I need to find my truth again. I need to go back to the basics here, and I need to, honestly, this sounds crazy, I need to quit letting people screw with my head. And I know I'm cherry picking, and I know that I'm doing the whole mutual admiration society when I have there's like 2 or 3 commenters on my YouTube channel that are just awesome. They are so freaking awesome. But you know what makes them awesome? Is that in large part we are kind of like just agreeing with each other. Now there are times that these people disagree with me, and we respectfully dive in and unpack our disagreement and stuff, and it's a beautiful thing to see. But I love these people because, again, this sounds terrible, and I, if you're one of these people, please don't take me don't take this as me diminishing our relationship in any capacity here. But to me, it's like I'm still over here feeding my ego. It's like, here's someone who agrees with me. We're diving deep into intellectual stuff, which I love. And so it's just this feedback loop of ego and loving, and patting myself on the back over here. And I don't know what to think about that. This is going to sound absolutely blasphemous here, and this randomly just popped into my head right now. But did Jesus have an ego? That just makes me want to grab a freaking I'm trying to find a sharp object that I can stick into my jugular vein right now, because it almost sounded like I just compared myself to Jesus. I don't want to do that. And so y'all, this is why, like, I mean, I'm having a major crisis right now. The stuff that I thought was truthful and stuff like that is leading me back into a dark area, and it's scaring me, and I don't know which way to turn. And I fell back into darkness for the past month or two. The last couple weeks being particularly dark, and it's like the water faucet is turned off from God. I haven't been getting signs or I used to just relish and revel in these signs that I would get, and it seems like the faucet is turned off, or at least it's just at such a slow trickle that I don't know, I just not seeing the same stuff, feeling the same love. Stopped reading the Bible. I've stopped praying. I'll say a tiny little micro prayer here and there, but it's all stopped, and I'm sliding back into darkness. And I have asked myself, am I sliding down into darkness because I've turned away from God in the past, month or so? Entirely likely, y'all. Entirely likely. But do I think I was overdoing it? Also entirely likely. Like, I think I might have been overdoing the God stuff, y'all. And this podcast is illustrative of that. I love that word, by the way, illustrative. But demonstrative is another one, and it's basically the same thing. This podcast is very demonstrative of that. It's like, I know I have a skill for storytelling and filmmaking and all this other stuff, and that truly these are amazing things that have happened to me and stuff, but I'm sitting there and I'm questioning, like, sure, these amazing things happened. Amazing things have happened to people throughout history. What makes me, aside from the fact that I can tell a good story and I have a knack for editing and audio visual, blah, 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 what makes me think that I need to have a podcast channel? My podcast channel is what got me into this trouble in the first place. If I would have kept all this to myself, like I probably should have, then I wouldn't have had this dark turn here. But everything's, happens for a reason. I saw that with my own eyes. That's for sure. I saw the cosmic fern and how life is a big joke, and I'm positive that this will all turn into one big ironic twist of fate kind of joke thing where I'm like, oh wow, I'm glad I went through that little part of my life so I could learn this, and hopefully that's what's in store for me. But I'll tell you right now, it's tough right now, and I am not enlightened. Okay, don't let me ever tell you that I am. If you ever hear anything like that come out of my mouth, I want you all to descend upon me with the fury and fire of a billion suns and put me in my place. Hopefully I am just relaying stuff to you and how amazing that stuff is. But I don't want to, for 1 second, tell someone, and I need to stop, y'all. This is now like a 50-minute little, just 700 subscribers, y'all. That was going to be I was going to do like maybe a 10-minute little thing here, 700 subscribers. I'm so happy and thrilled, y'all, to have anyone subscribe. And I'm happy and thrilled to help people who are like I was. If I can get someone to have that head scratch moment of, could there be something else out there aside from my cherished science and math and probability and statistics and da-da-da-da-da. And if I can get someone to think otherwise, if I can convince someone fully, then amazing. But if I can at least just get someone to think about it, then I think it's worth it. I think. I've like I said, I've been battling with this whole idea that there's like 2 or 3 times now over the past month where I was thinking really seriously about pulling the whole channel, and that's not cool, y'all. Like I need to show strength, but at the same time, I also need to not bullshit you. And this takes me back to what I was going to say earlier about, how I said, like, I don't think psychedelics cured me. I'll talk about that in a little bit. I think it has and it hasn't. I think that all psychedelics does is slam you down extremely hard onto the path. It shows you the path. Maybe your first experience, it shows you the path. When you go into like a really deep experience, it'll slam you down really hard on the path, y'all. But being slammed down on the path is not the path. Navigating and staying on the path is the path. And that's where psychedelics falls short. All it does is show you and let you experience it. But it is up to you to integrate that and fold that into your life and stay on the path. And so in that sense, psychedelics has cured me, but one can fall off the path, and I am clawing with my friggin' fingernails right now. You know those scenes in horror movies where the person's scraping along the wooden floor and their like fingernail gets ripped off because they're scraping so hard? That's kind of how I am right now, grasping and clawing to stay on the path. I'm like about to fall off, y'all. I'm trying what I can within reason that's not contradictory to the dilemma that I'm already in right now, to try to help me get back on the path. And I'm trying to fall back on people that I know, but the people that I know don't understand. And or they do understand and they're Christian and they still have this little thing that they say out of the corner of their mouth that's like, that's not biblical. And that's just a way of saying you're going to hell. And so, like, I have these Christian friends that I just love to death, and I can't talk to them. I have these atheist, agnostic friends that I just love to death, and I just can't talk to them. And I have these people that are kind of in the middle, that are like a little bit religious, but don't take it that serious, and and I just can't talk to them. And I've quit my job, and I say that every episode, like, oh, Andrew, would you shut up about quitting your job? Here you are again with this ego thing. But the facts are, y'all, I quit my job. Very successful career with incredible benefits. I have been without health insurance now for almost a year, and I know that's first world problems, right? And there's a ton of people out there without health insurance, but y'all, that means that I could be going to see a therapist right now, but I'll be damned if I'm going to pay that much to go see a therapist. Like, if there's anyone out there maybe that I could talk to about this crazy cosmic spiritual stuff, maybe it's a therapist. I don't got insurance, so I can't talk to them. The only person right now, legitimately, y'all, that I can talk to, that has really helped me out, and I hope he's hearing this right now because his words and guidance is really helping me, and I talked to him earlier, is my brother. And it's so ironic, and it's one of those jokes in life, because I kind of looked down my nose at him when he was going through his spiritual awakening. And so this is all this is coming home to roost, y'all. It's a big joke. I in my mind was laughing at the poor guy, and was like, this is all a big crock. It's unsustainable. He's crazy. Now I know what he went through, and I'm going through it, and he's helping me a lot. Legitimately, my brother is the only person I can talk to at this point. No one else will suffice. So I don't know why I just told all that to y'all, except to let you know that this is still a struggle. It's not a cure-all, okay? I want to talk to these people who claim that is a cure-all, like an instant cure-all. And I know I made those claims on my first episode, and you know what? Back then I thought it was a cure-all. That was before I started having these stumbles. At the end of the day, y'all, I'm still a jacked up, messed up person, and I probably always will be. I think probably the biggest part of this that I'm going to eventually realize is being at peace with that is probably the answer. Being at peace with not knowing the truth also is probably the answer. I plan on going on another trip, and I'm not going to do an episode. Well, I say that knowing me, I probably still will. But as of right now, I unless something amazing always happens on these trips. But I'm going to be asking God some very specific questions about truth and about, hey, here's this book, right? That everyone says is the truth. Tell me that you're in there and I will follow it, kind of thing. I'm going to be getting down into some very, plant your stake in the ground kind of topics on this next trip, y'all. And it's going to be such a controversial thing. I doubt I will do an episode on it. I'm probably going to keep it to myself and let my actions speak for what I experienced. Because the amount of attacking, that the amount of anger and angst and whatever answer I get is going to be controversial to the point where people might even want to kill me. And so I know listen to my drama queen ass over here. I'm not that important. But anyways, it is what it is, y'all. I am going to go in again, and I'm going to ask some very specific questions on truth. And I don't know. And yeah, hate to end the episode so abruptly and weirdly like that, but that's all I got. I've aired it all out. I've had a good cry here. That's probably all I needed to begin with. There it is. And so there's a YouTube subscriber of mine that him and I kind of keep tabs on one another. We check up on one another and stuff. His journey seems to reflect mine, and it's a beautiful thing. He asked me recently, hey man, how have you been? And so Romanov, I just gave you an hour of how I've been, man. Sorry to answer you in this long-winded response, but that's how I've been. And I'm going to try to pull myself up by the bootstraps here. And by the way, I learned recently that phrase is an impossible thing. I didn't really think about what that phrase meant until like a few months ago, and then I found out it's like impossible. You can't lift yourself up by your own bootstraps. And so I'm gonna try to pull myself up some way, somehow, Romanov. That's what I'm trying to say. That my story's not over, your story's not over. There's still a lot of love to go around, and I refuse to be conquered by hate, and I refuse to let myself go back into that darkness. My fingernails are breaking off, trying to claw myself, keep myself on the path. I still got some fingernails left, So we're gonna keep trudging along here, and I'm gonna find a deeper. This is all a test. This is all a joke, and it's all a test. And I'm gonna find my strength again, and it's gonna be stronger than it was before because of this. It's just tough to get there. I love you all. Don't let anyone tell you that any of this is an instant cure. Don't let anyone tell you that they're more enlightened than you, or that Ram Dass is more enlightened than blah, or Jordan Peterson is more enlightened than. Don't let that happen, and don't let me do that either. If that is what becomes of me at some point, call me out. Love you all. Hope you appreciate my honesty. This is the equivalent of one of those, you get really drunk and you text your ex or something, and you're like, whoops. I'll probably take this one down, man. I'm bearing my soul here, y'all. I don't want to hide this shit from y'all. I'm still going to be a wreck till the day I die. But hopefully I'll be a wreck that can cope with his wrecked self. Thank you. Love you all. Bye-bye.